welcome to the Turk and Raz podcast. My name is Turk.
And my name is Raz.
All right, Raz, give me 3.
Awesome. It's kind of been a while since we've been here, and I don't know about you, but I am very excited to come back, and I think we picked a fitting one to return to good form, and it's an all-time classic in my mind, and it's from one of the biggest IPs out there that is, to this day, since the release of it, it's been going strong. What are we talking about, Turk?
We're talking about the 1990 film Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles.
It is adapted from the comic books created by Kevin Eastman and Peter Laird back in 1984. A few years after that, that's when it really hit with the animated show that was geared towards younger audiences. That's when the franchise's popularity became even bigger than the Technodrome.
Yes, it did.
There were Ninja Turtle comics, there was a huge amount of merchandise to purchase, and then there was obviously the animated show. By that time, you know those Heroes in a Half Shell wouldn't be long before they appeared on screen. It was released theatrically March 31st by New Line Cinema, and it was a box office success, grossing $202 million on a budget of $13 million. It was the highest grossing independent film up to that time.
Yeah, it was. It's hard to forget it.
What was your first impressions of this movie?
Watching it as a kid, of course, I absolutely loved it. Yeah, I think I watched it several times as a kid. I can't remember if I saw it in the theater. I might have missed it, but I did catch it shortly after. And of course, it became like an all-time favorite.
Did you read the comics, or did you just solely knew Ninja Turtles from the animated show?
Yeah, me too. Yeah, the cartoon was where it was at. That's where I watched it on the weekends as a little kid. Yeah, and then obviously hearing about the movie coming out was pretty exciting. When was the first time that you watched it?
Yeah, so my first impression when I first saw it was I was a part of Turtle Mania at the time. I wasn't aware of the comics it was based on, just the cartoon show. It was a big deal for us kids back in the day. All you would see, like at my school, is kids wearing the shirts. Kids had the toys, the posters, the sticker books. I mean, I watched the show religiously every day because that's like when they aired the first season, and subsequently all seasons, it was like every day of the week there was a turtle show. I was a big fan of the show. I probably had a few of the toys. I didn't have everything. Like I had a couple figurines. That's about it. How I found out about the Ninja Turtle live action is actually my brother told me, because he went to the movies and he's like, man, did you know there's going to be a live action turtle movie? And I basically am shitting my pants. I couldn't believe it was really happening. And then I remember seeing the poster. And you know that poster where you see like their eyes, all 4 of them kind of pointing out of the manhole there, and you just see the city rise and the skyscrapers, and you see the bright kind of neon colors. I would stare at that poster when I'd read comics, like just endlessly. I was so pumped up. Oh, I can't believe this is coming to life. And then when I first saw the trailer, I lost my shit. I couldn't believe, and they looked so like lifelike. I watched TV. I didn't care about the show. I had to see the TV spot. And then, of course, when I went to the theater, I went a whole bunch of times, like Batman 89, Ninja Turtles, Terminator 2. Like all 3 of these movies were a pretty big deal for me. And I'm pretty sure for you, it was a pretty big deal because back then in the late 80s and early 90s, it was at an all-time high. So you couldn't go anywhere without seeing Ninja Turtle Gitch, Ninja Turtle condoms, and all kinds of shit. I mean, there was Ninja Turtles everywhere. Splinter.
I didn't split that as a kid. Sorry.
You didn't see the Shredder? Or Splinter? Ripe for Splinter?
I'm sure she loved it.
Careful, you might get a splinter down there, young man. Okay, since these were experiences as a kid, you and I recently rewatched these. After watching again after all these years, what is your feelings of the movie, and does it hold up to the nostalgia feelings you had back as a kid, or is it a little bit different?
Obviously, as an adult, you tend to hang on to things a little bit more, watching the film, listening to the dialogue and how they're speaking. You take more from it. As an adult, you listen to the messaging a little more closely, and I could really see a lot of really good messaging in this film, mostly coming from Splinter as the father figure. Every word that he said was super wise, and you hung on to it. And like you said earlier, it sounded like he was talking like a fortune cookie. But the reason that is, I think, is it is what makes it so memorable for people. So I think that was a good idea for doing that. And it absolutely holds up. I still think the costumes hold up really well. I'm disappointed that they're not doing another Muppet-based Turtles movie, because I think it would work. Like it still holds up really well.
It really does, and there's like a real charm to it, because even when Splinter is telling April O'Neil like about how he discovered the turtles, and you see the turtles as they're growing, and you can clearly tell they're Muppets that are dancing around like radical, awesome. You know it's not realistic, but it's so awesome and enjoyable. You get kind of lost in the scene. Who cares? But I totally agree with you.
Yes, exactly. The same way. Like, and when he's in his cage and he's talking about mimicking the moves of his master, was it a little bit hokey dokey? Sure. But it still really works well, because it just progresses the story very well.
I am so ingrained when I was a kid with how Amato Yoshi, who turned into Splinter, human to rat. So when I first saw this movie, I kind of was a little bit like, okay, wait a minute. Actually, Hamato Yoshi is killed by Rokusaki, like Shredder. So I'm like, why did they change that? But actually, that's a little bit closer to actually the original comic. I forgot to ask you this, but who is your favorite Ninja Turtle? And like, who do you kind of identify with the most?
I think it's going to be Michelangelo. I know a lot of people have a hard-on for Raphael, but I think the person that I would identify the most is Michelangelo. Who would you identify as?
I identify as a cross between the Raphael from the movie and also Raphael from the cartoon, because I think I'm very sardonic and sarcastic, but also I don't know if I consider myself brooding, but I beat to my own drum. So yeah, I can identify both versions of Raphael probably the most.
So Rez, how did your rewatch go?
Pretty much the same as yours. I think the movie really holds up good to this day, which is kind of surprising, because movies like this tend to have, like you said, could be a feeling of that sometimes nostalgia sometimes outweighs critical thinking. But I think this movie, of course, you can pick some stuff apart, and I think as we go on in this retro roundtable, there'll be some stuff that I think didn't make sense, but I think the movie still it's a pretty simple story. It's pretty basic. It holds up really well. It has a lot of heart, like you said. So I don't think I need to elaborate on that, because I think you did a really good job of that. But I think I really also enjoyed the dark and gritty feel more than I did as a kid, especially being at this age, because the world's more bleak looking to us. So I think I now appreciate that gritty darkness to it. The story is deeper than I actually remembered. And basically, it's really a tale of fathers and sons in a way. And it's Splinter and his four boys trying to guide them and care for them. But he also, like what you see in the movie, he handles them in different ways, and then you actually see, in a way, him and Raphael have kind of a unique bond, because Raphael, his anger has been very hard for not only for Raphael to channel with himself, but with his brothers, and also even with his father, Splinter. And so seeing how delicate he was with him, and seeing that he seems to be one of the few who could actually, get to Raphael and bring him to his senses, was kind of really touching to hear, because when you see in the movie, when Splinter is abducted by the Foot, not only is because, inadvertently Raphael was the one that led them to it, but his really deep connection to Splinter and the sorrowness of losing him. You know what I mean? And then you have Shredder, who's this surrogate father to these teen angst kids that maybe, for whatever reasons are at odd ends with their parents, or they don't fit in with society, because he even says the outside world rejects you, just like the outside world rejects the turtles. And you kind of see the mirroring of philosophies between these two fathers. I thought was really interesting.
And on a side note, I feel like if I was about 13 or 14 in that world, I probably would have went with Shredder.
I think so too, man. That's such a great deal. You get to play all these video games. You get to live the life you want, and you get to be a ninja.
Yeah, you get to smoke and drink and gamble.
I mean, there is kind of like continuity issues sprinkled throughout the film, and there's things that really don't make sense, because one thing is like, what is Shredder's really master plan for the city? He's housing cyberpunk kids, or like it's a ninja orphanage. What is his grand plan? What is he trying to dominate? Like, what is he trying to build? Is it just he's building this, stealing and having this warehouse, or is he trying to like really expand the Foot? We don't really know.
Yeah, I know it's about an expansion, because they do talk about how they had taken over Japan, and now they've trickled into the United States. So I don't know exactly what they're taking over, or like maybe they just steal. They want to be rich. I don't know. It's hard to say.
Yeah, no, you don't really know, and it doesn't really matter in a movie like this. You don't really have to put much thought. But another thing that still kind of like watching it again, I know the symbolism of it, and it's a way for the turtles to connect with each other and also connect with Splinter. But the Force Ghost Splinter scene, it kind of a little bit doesn't work for me as much as it did as a kid, because you're like, what? Kind of doesn't work for me.
I agree.
This movie, I know, was a real surprise hit, because like I remember like there wasn't really any or a lot of pre-movie release hype outside of like the trailers and some of the commercials. And I think just like if you really look into it, the studio really didn't know what they had with this film. It was more like an afterthought movie and the release and stuff. And usually like a movie will have lots of tie-ins like toys, books, comics, video games. It had a few pictures on cereal boxes and maybe advertisements and comics, like what I remember. But this was kind of one of those movies where it was like, all right, we'll put it out, see what happens. After the movie became a big hit, then all of a sudden you started seeing kind of like tie-ins to Ninja Turtles after the fact. Do you remember that?
I do. But first of all, before we continue, just wait. Okay, now we're good to go.
Oh, Daddy's back.
Mm-hmm. Okay. All right, we can get on with it now.
Oh, you know how much that warms my heart. Basically, we said the movie has a real simple plot. The Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, basically, they go on a quest to save their master, Splinter, with their new allies, April O'Neil and Casey Jones, from Shredder in the Foot Clan. The film does adapt the early Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles comics with several elements taken from the animated series, so it kind of combines the series and the comics quite well. Like the shows, the comic series, anime shows a lot of love. Of course, there's changes to the story, but any fan of this franchise can see just how many nods the film's narrative gives to the other incarnations. And then, like, what I mean is, like, a noticeable chunk is that the story blatantly it takes, like, pivotal moments, like, Leo gets severely injured in one of the stories, but in the movie it's Raphael. April's building was set ablaze in the books, so they took a lot of stuff out of there. I would say what I like about this movie is like it opens up really quick with a nice montage, right? It kind of gets in there. There's organized crime by a bizarre nature, so we know right off the bat. Like, just jumps into it. There's a Foot Clan, and then it's all kind of told through port from April. And I always thought that movie did it really well.
Yeah, exactly. And that I was thinking about that scene where all the lights get turned out. They knock out the lights when they take down the Foot Clan, and you can hear like a bunch of people, scurrying about and getting beat up. And
yeah.
I was just thinking to myself, do you think one of the turtles like copped a feel on April?
Because they definitely have teenage crushes on there, like especially Michelangelo. Like, he's kissing the TV, he's humping the freaking phone book. Like, he's really into it. And and the thing is that April's into, I would say, more so Raphael, because he's the more mature one, because he took the initiative and saved her. So if anyone copped a feel, I would say Raphael might have got a little extra,
True.
He used 3 fingers he had, so that's 6 fingers, baby. Yeah.
That dirty devil.
And that's not saying anything about Master Splinter. Like, I mean, there's a reason why he's known as a dirty rat.
That's right.
Also, you see Danny, April O'Neil's boss's Charles' son. You notice he's wearing, like, t-shirts representing, like, rebellion, like Sid Vicious from the Sex Pistols. Like, every shirt he wears so kind of foretells you that, okay, Danny, and of course he's part of the Foot, and he's part of this organization. So I like that little nod there that it represents the youth and rebelling against the establishment and rebelling against parents. Watching this movie, did you ever get kind of the sense, when I was a kid, I'm like, I don't know if everyone's going to get out alive in the film. Like, I actually thought Splinter was going to die. And they kind of foreshadow it with the interactions between him and Raphael and his anger issues. And he always alludes that, one day, I won't be here. And he's always telling his students that you're going to learn to actually have to fend for yourself because I won't always be here. And you need to understand that and accept that. And even like through his backstories when he's telling Danny kind of about it has to deal with death. So I kind of was convinced as a kid that I don't know if Splinter is going to make it out in this film because it's a dark kind of gritty movie.
Yeah, that's an interesting point. Yeah, it could have happened. Yeah, aside from Splinter and the Turtles, the movie was very grounded. Like you could, obviously you wouldn't have a giant turtle or a giant rat and 4 giant turtles, but yeah, aside from those 5 characters, everyone else in that movie could be legit. Shredder could wear a goofy mask and shit, but
for that time and all that, it worked really well. And like having like a cool Darth Vader suit kind of walking in there would really, like, it makes him larger than life. It makes him mystic, and also him being this master ninja who's teaching a legion of ninjas. And, he has his right-hand man, Master Tatsu, and in his impression there, like, I thought, yes, it was a little bit over the top, but, like, it felt grounded. Like, if you looked at his helmet, his suit, like, everything was kind of practical. Even if you looked at the Ninja Turtles, like, the katanas or his nunchucks, it looks like it's not like they just went into, like an MMA store and grabbed a bunch of stuff. It looks like this is stuff that they put together or found over time. And you kind of appreciate the detail. And also, I think a lot of it that grounded this movie in reality has to do a lot with the 2 lead actors, Judith Hoag.
Sex? Yes, please.
Whatever. As April O'Neil and Elias.
Poor Judith.
As Casey Jones. I really appreciated their character. Like, I thought Judith did a really good job capturing the spirit of an investigative reporter. Like, she was pretty spunky. Like, she did. She had no problem getting her hands dirty, like when on the subway, when the foot soldiers are telling her to shut it, she like tries to go at all of them with her purse. Like, she has like no fear. Like, she's very a fearless character. And I think that Judith was the best version of April O'Neil for live action. Like, she's still my sentimental favorite.
Oh, yeah, without a doubt she is. Yeah, Megan Fox was garbage.
What's she? Yeah, like she's almost like too much like eye candy. Where like with Judith, she's like a almost that next door girl with freckles. She's like someone that you could know, or someone that you would. Where Megan Fox is someone that you'd meet her maybe at a plastic surgery farm.
Exactly. Yeah.
And then,
no, I think from the cartoon, April's, just the way she was developed, I think they did a really good job at casting, because she's very, very close to the animated version.
Yeah, and then obviously Elias Cote's like, he's a really good, I think, character actor, and he's very entertaining, and I think his chemistry with Judith is really well. But like, even his like relationships with the Turtles, especially Donatello, where they're throwing insults at each other, and like, really, like, he is kind of a piece of shit, because you're like, what does he do? Like, I know he used to play baseball until he got injured, but it's like, how does he, like, it's not like he's Batman where he's a billionaire playboy. He's like basically a poor man's vigilante.
Do you think that he kind of looks like Bill Pullman?
Yeah, a little bit.
Yeah, for the longest time, like, because I hadn't watched the Turtles movie in a long time, I always thought, oh yeah, Bill Pullman plays Casey Jones.
Yeah. I think we can't talk about the Ninja Turtles 90 movie without talking about Jim Henson's Creature Shop. Like, I mean, we kind of mentioned it in our kind of opening statements of this podcast, but like, I think what is really kind of special about this was one of Jim Henson's last projects before his death, shortly after the premiere and stuff. So it's kind of like that Walt Disney would kind of add his touch to a Disney animated movie. Could feel Jim Henson's essence in this. Because, like, if you've watched movies like The Dark Crystal or Labyrinth, or watch The Muppet Show, you can see this is kind of a culmination of his work, seeing it in the live action Ninja Turtles, if you ask me.
Yeah. Jim Henson was a huge part of my childhood, so I definitely appreciate Turtles that much more because of it.
Like outside of like the height difference, because I know the turtles are supposed to be a lot shorter, but in this movie, like it felt like they were shorter for the most part. I think it did a good job in perspective. Besides from that, the turtles I found were very recognizable to the classic characters, not only from the comic, but I thought from the cartoon, especially the cartoon, because you and I and so many kids grew up on Turtles. When we saw live action, that was like our basis of a comparison to, and I thought the movie really handled that really well. Like Mikey looked like Mikey, and the Turtles had distinct looks. Like it wasn't like they were just, because when you got to Turtles 3, they all basically looked like it was the same rubber foam mask. It was just shitty, cheap shit put together. And Casey Jones looked like Casey Jones, and Master Splinter was like created superbly. You know, we already touched upon Shredder, and the lip syncing was really good. It's a little bit dated. It's a little bit over-exaggerated in some things, but other than that, it holds up really well, man.
It really does. Yeah, it's hard to fault it for that because they did such a good job.
I'm wondering if you saw the comparison of Shredder's abandoned warehouse with all the Foot Clan and like the people. It is basically, it's the essence of Pleasure Island. It's a place where disobedient boys go to a place of freedom and anarchy, but actually you see them go underneath kind of the chain link fence, and they go in this building and you see all this stuff. They have smokes, video games, all kinds of recreational stuff. But then as you kind of go in more and more layers, and just like Pleasure Island, it is actually a place far more sinister than what it suggests. Is like, you know, like the kids are eating junk food. You see Danny when he's taking out that Walkman, he's eating Burger King. And then you also see people smoking, and just like Pinocchio, those kids, you know, are drinking beer and smoking, and that beer turns them into, you know, donkeys, and they become expendable. And as we see throughout this movie, Splinter, what he kind of teaches Danny, that he cares nothing for you. He's not the father you should be looking to. You should be looking to your father.
Right. Yeah.
And of course, I love how April throughout the movie calls out the police, how useless they are.
And again, it was interesting in the movie, she went off script, you know, and she asked questions she wasn't supposed to, and he got mad at her for that.
He even did Charles a favor, his son. He probably let him go leniently, that you tell April to not bust my balls, and right away she basically called him. And, oh, that's really good.
Yeah.
Or can you say that in English?
April was good in this movie. She was fun.
Yeah, she was really good. You know, it's kind of a bummer because apparently Judith, why they didn't have her back was apparently she wasn't really easy to deal with on set. I guess she was always complaining about the work and was kind of a drag. So I think when they went into the production, the second one, they got a more agreeable actress and stuff. And but the unfortunate thing is that Turtles: The Secret of Ooze is kind of, the actress that plays her, she's just missing that spunk that Judith has.
Yeah.
Kind of want to talk about like the action in this movie, how it still holds up really well. Like this movie, you know, never forgets about stealth. The movie always kind of reminds us that, you know, we're ninja, we fade into the night, and, you know, the turtles kind of showcase their abilities. And in the turtles, because they lived in the sewers, the darkness is their ally and invisibility.
Yeah, and especially at the beginning of the film during that robbery scene when you saw the turtles' shadows up against the wall, that's what really got you excited, because you're like, holy shit, we're gonna see turtles for the first time, right? So that was pretty cool.
And then when you see the reveal, you're just like, it's awesome. You know, we finally see them and they're excited to tell Master Splinter their first case. And then, of course, them being teenagers, because Master Splinter wants to, you know, meditate on things. No, it's pizza time.
Yeah, and when Splinter's given that, like, first big speech, and he's like, you know, sit down or whatever, and then Michelangelo's on the phone ordering pizza, twirling his nunchucks. He's like, Michelangelo, get over here.
I mean, movies.
And don't be late.
Okay, so I have a question here. How do you figure the turtles, because we're seeing them buying pizza, we're seeing them going to the movies, where are they getting money to, you know, buy pizza frequently? We're going to the films. Where are they getting money? Is it just like loose change that drops out of people's pocket? Are they robbing because they are ninja? Are they robbing stores or robbing people?
No, they're not robbing. They're too good for that.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's loose change that falls through the cracks. That's what.
And also, how does no one notice Raphael when he comes out of the theater? Like, I get it, it's New York and it's the city where nobody really pays attention, but come on, when someone, he's basically wearing a trench coat and he's a guy who's wearing a bandana, a red bandana, and he has basically 2 toes and green skin, people are going to notice that shit.
Okay, well then answer me this with Clark Kent and Superman.
That's different.
Come on, a pair of glasses and a hair
No, but it's more about he has that face because it's too much out there and he looks too alike, and it's also like, look what Christopher Reeve did. He would hunch over, and then it's the attitude, right? So people don't give Clark Kent a second look. They look at him and they're like, But then the way he acts, they don't. I see what you're saying.
If you can excuse that one, I'm excusing Raphael.
No, I'm going to stick with this one. No, sir. No, sir. Because Superman, this guy's got green skin. He's wearing no shoes.
It doesn't matter.
He's barefoot. And the cabbie's the only person that notices him. He's like, because that one guy's like, what the hell was that? Oh, it's just so big, Twiddle. What the fuck?
Cabbies are special.
I guess so. Enter Casey Jones, who's he's pursuing these guys that stole a purse. And for stealing a purse, I get maybe some type of punishment, maybe arrest. But how severe of punishment do you think Casey Jones was going to give these 2 kids?
He was going to give them a beating.
Yeah, it's almost lethal. He has a bat, hockey sticks.
Yeah, old school punishment.
Did it seem to you that there was a little bit too much waiting for the other person to perform a physical action to one another, where in real life, would they allow each other to kind of have those moments? I know it's a kids movie and I'm picky, but
it's the banter between them.
Until he called him a freak, and then Raphael just lost it.
Yeah, because he's got anger issues.
Yeah. Okay, so then of course Shredder, who's just villaining out, he's watching multiple screens on TV. Did that scene when he threw the dagger into the screen and wasn't that scene kind of reminiscent of Dr. Claw from Inspector Gadget or the architect from The Matrix? I just got that vibe.
Yes, right there was Inspector Claw, Dr. Claw, for sure, from Inspector Gadget. Yeah, that was ripped off from that, for sure. Which is good, though, because I like those similarities. They're kind of fun.
I thought it was a cute scene where, Raphael saves April and they take her to their hideout. Obviously, the turtles have watched her on TV, and you kind of see a little bit of their immaturity and their excitement because their exposure to humans is very minimal without beating the shit of them in the dark. So someone like her, so you see them just looking at her, and I thought the movie played it pretty good. She wasn't kind of an annoying kind of hysterics kind of being around them. Yeah, she kind of loses her shit a little bit just trying to kind of grasp the reality of the situation, where I am now looking at 4 talking turtles, and then all of a sudden I got this big greasy rat that's kind of
and he was greasy.
He's drinking so much sake that he's always sweaty.
Yeah, like they say, when she wakes up or before she wakes up, they're like, can we keep her?
This movie has a lot of slapstick gags. It goes from kind of serious, then, they attack Raphael on the balcony, and they beat the shit out of him pretty much severely while they're kind of going through the antique store. It's all there. Then they throw him in there, and you see the scene where they're like, oh my God, Raph, and then Leo just takes one little pulse. Oh, he's alive, but barely. This is where you have to turn your brain off. The movie is severe. Raphael almost looks dead. He could die, but now they have this big fight, and there's all kinds of gags, Mikey's doing a nunchuck off with this other foot soldier, all this shit. You know what I mean? And they're joking.
Yeah, this is the part for the kids. So this is like you said, slapstick, not to take too serious. Because I think in all reality, after this movie came out, there were a lot of kids emulating turtles, fighting ninjas, basically. Heard a lot of stories of kids getting hurt, kids looking under manholes for turtles. There was a big it was a cultural thing where all over the world kids were doing these things because of the movie. So it's good that they didn't play it too violent and keep it a little bit phony, but I think that's the reason why they did that.
Ninja kicked the damn rabbit. But also it kind of shows like a little bit of their arrogance, because even Raphael, he overestimates how good he is. He goes, come on guys, how are you supposed to beat me? And all of a sudden a bunch of foot soldiers come out of the place. He's like, ooh, okay, good answer.
One of my favorite parts of the farm scenes were when she was kind of she was narrating a little bit of each turtle and what their headspace, where they were at. And as she did that, she drew them. She did portraits of them. I thought that was really cool. That was an interesting little ad that they put in there.
I know I kind of earlier criticized the scene about not making sense with the Force Ghost Splinter, but it is a really heartfelt scene, because what it symbolizes is that throughout the whole movie, the turtles could not get on the same page with each other in their meditation and kind of learning that final lesson of what a ninja is that calmness, right? Because that's what was kind of fleeting with Raphael and the turtles. So when they connected to that, and you see throughout the movie until they face Shredder, they're moving in sync, synchronized as a unit, and they're kicking ass and taking names.
Yeah, the farm was a healing, put them all on the same page.
And then when they get back to the city, like it just back underground, and we learn that Casey Jones, and to go back to Casey Jones when he comes and helps them, fight the Foot Clan at April's. Did you notice all the other turtles are taking off, and he's like, I'll take these guys on. But you're like, if you watch that scene, they're just standing there and moving slowly like zombies, and he's moving around like he's like a goalie. Like if you watch that scene, it's like at a hockey practice, everyone is getting ready to like shoot their shot at the goalie, and they're getting closer and they're trying to psych him out. I don't know if that was done on purpose, but like, because it looks kind of goofy.
Yeah, that could be. I wouldn't doubt it. There, got to put some sport metaphors in there.
Yeah, like he has no problem taking on highly, skilled ninjas, but he's claustrophobic. And did you notice when Donatello was egging him on? He thought when he meant claustrophobic that he was like into dudes.
Yeah, that was funny.
I never looked at a dude.
That was hilarious.
What are you talking about? That's not what claustrophobic is. I don't know if you met Homer.
That was a good one.
Oh shit!
I don't think it's
Yeah, that was funny.
Okay, what's the deal with people like coming out of the sewer and leaving like the manhole lids off?
Yeah, that kind of got to me. I was pissed off at that. It was like my OCD was kicking in. I'm like, shut the damn thing.
Yeah, and the thing is, then it shows you the continuity with the shot, because when you see Casey Jones walking, the lid, there's a cover. The manhole lids are like those big ones we see here within the city, like those really big ones for the electrical. And I was like, holy shit, these are not ones you want to leave open.
No, they're heavy, and a car tire will go through that, no problem.
Master Splinter kind of tells Danny about the symbol of the foot, the dragon symbol that symbolizes like a Rokusaki, right? And he kind of tells him about his master, and they were kind of fighting for a woman, and then he killed them. And watching the cartoon, I always thought Matayoshi, because he was Splinter and Shredder, he's alive, but when in the show, I couldn't believe that the real human Master Splinter was killed. That's actually in the comic book. Rokusaki actually had an older brother who was, I think, in the foot with Matayoshi, and they were vying for the same woman. And whatever happened, I think the older brother of Rokusaki, I don't know if he was killed or killed himself, and then he Rokusaki vowed revenge, and he finally caught up to Matayoshi and killed him and his girlfriend. I guess what I'm saying is that as a kid, it was a little bit jarring seeing that Matayoshi was killed.
Yeah, that definitely was kind of a crazy scene. But I moved on.
Yeah. I still don't know how a rat learned how to do jiu-jitsu in a cage, but, I'm still...
I know, right?
It makes more sense that he was human that turned to rat, and he had the skill where it's like, okay, I guess, what kind of rat? What are they feeding the rats there in Japan? The foot go to snuff out the turtles, and it's going to be a big deal because the Shredder, he's going to go take care of itself. So the movie's kind of gears up. The movie does a really good job in kind of building up Shredder, because he's not in the movie that much. Like, he barely appears in it. When he's in the scenes, he kind of eats it up, and it's a big impact. And I think this movie really showed, like, when the sewer scenes, and we get to see, because the movie kind of pays it off really good. Donatello in the movie, we see him on a skateboard. We see him kicking ass with it. Of course, April O'Neil gets into the action because Mikey with his nunchucks. Like, it's so corny, but it works so well. Like, just watching, like, I found myself so enjoying, like, seeing the antics of the turtles fighting, and like Raphael's eating an apple, and they're just having the time of their life. And then like, but it was all foreplay because Shredder shows up. It's a great introduction for him into the action, because like the turtles are very overconfident when they see him, and they're kind of laughing at him. They're like, look at this guy, like he looks like a walking can opener, so they don't really take him serious, right?
Yeah, that was funny.
And then he starts fighting, and he dispatches them easily. And yeah, it's a little bit, they only fight one-on-one. It would have been nice to see them kind of try to double team him and scene, but thought it was cool to showcase that like Shredder was more than a match for all the turtles. And I think that's what makes the character for live action, to me, to this day, still memorable, because I thought the cartoon show, it kind of handles Shredder as a bumbling idiot. Like, at least in this movie, Shredder is a very severe character. Like,
yeah, for sure. And then it showcases just how smart and experienced Splinter is when he finally attacks Splinter, and Splinter, pulls a trick on him, and he goes over the side of the roof there, and he's hanging on to him, right? Just barely, so.
And of course, Splinter's doing the usual. He's teaching, I guess the beauty about Splinter is that he's teaching everyone while he's like talking to him, and he's even teaching Orokusaki as he's like telling him that your way doesn't work. And that's the scene where when he pulls out the dagger, I'm like, don't you do it to me, don't you do it to me. Because like live action movies a lot of times like this, subvert expectations. They sometimes will kill a character. So I'm like, don't you do it. But then he caught it, then it's like, okay.
Yeah, into the back of the trash truck, and Casey Jones down there pulling the lever, and crushes Splinter's helmet. Well, that was nice because, I've done that from time to time at my day job. So it was kind of nice to see Casey Jones do that.
That essentially really is the movie where, the turtles save the day. April O'Neil gets the pay raise, shames her ex-boss and giving her
the corner office,
Like everything's fixed with him and his son, so he's on the right path. Master Splinter's with his kids, and they cowabunga it.
Yeah, he made a funny. I made a funny. Ha, ha, ha.
Yeah. And then with that 1990s cheesy rap techno music starts.
Oh, that was so good. Yeah, that was awesome.
Because they displayed turtle power.
Actually, I want to give a shout out to the soundtrack of this movie. It is fantastic. Like the opening kind of intro music and into the music, weaving in it. Really well done.
Yeah, no, it was a great soundtrack. Every song you listened, it really meant something in the film.
This movie really holds up really good, and yeah, you can tear it apart, but I think that's the beauty of some of the warts in this movie works in its favor, because this is the quintessential, because I think the 80s was the rise of pop culture, but I think 90s kind of basically took it through the stratosphere, and I think this movie is kind of part of that kind of genre where it just took things to a different level and it never looked back. Yeah, this was a really good watch, and I think one thing for notability is that did you know the voice of Splinter is the guy that voices Elmo?
Oh, is that right? Okay.
Yeah, talk about contrast, eh?
That's kind of cool.
Yeah, so and I think I do prefer the movie Splinter voice versus the cartoon, because I think the cartoon Turtles voices are pretty iconic, and I thought the movie did a really good job. I thought Leo sounded kind of similar live action versus I thought Michelangelo in the cartoon. Raphael a little bit different. Donatello was a little bit different too, because Corey Feldman just has a distinct voice. I think the guy that voiced Donatello in The Secret of Ooze, to me, was a little bit closer to sounding like Donatello, if you ask me. But I'm okay with Corey Feldman voicing the character.
Yeah, I thought he was fine.
If you had to rate this movie How many Domino's pizza would you give this?
I don't know. It's hard to base it on what, but I think just total like member berries and just all in all enjoyment of watching and rewatchability. I'm gonna give it like, is it out of 5?
Sure.
Okay. I'm gonna give it 4. I'm gonna give it 4 pizzas.
I'm going to give it 4 pizzas too. This movie, why I would give it 4 out of 5 is that this is like a movie that's quintessentially encapsulates what nostalgia is, what is fun and exciting, what has heart, but a little bit of darkness. The movie, it's not scared to kind of push the envelope for children, where it's like, you know, there's some really life choices as a child that you will be exposed to, and it's not necessarily bad to shy away from them. So I think this movie, yeah, like it's high up there for me.
There's no other Turtles movie that I'll rewatch. I think the others are just trash. So I think this is the only one worth watching again.
Yeah, like that's the thing is like I don't mind The Secret of the Ooze, the second one. Like I don't think it comes anywhere near like the first movie. And then the Turtles 3, to me it really went downhill. And everything since then, I have not really been interested in. I tried watching the ones with Megan Fox. Now, kudos to anyone that enjoys those, but personally, I did not like those. And so I just never really even finished watching the first one. It's just not for me. I didn't like them. I thought they were garbage.
The biggest problem with those ones is their depiction of the turtles. I don't think they look right. They look terrible.
They tried to make it, you know, as realistic as possible, and it still looked fake comparative to, like, these work so much better. Even that scene in the bathroom when Leo and Raphael and there's Donatello is laughing, his mouth opens so wide, and if you freeze frame it, you can see the actor's eyes and teeth in there, and it's like a really creepy pic. And so I recommend anybody, when you're watching that scene where Donatello goes, "It's a Kodak moment," and he laughs.
Oh yeah.
And if you freeze it, you can see the actor inside the costume, and it's actually really creepy because it looks like he's wearing glasses with these teeth. That's the charm of this. And I think if they were ever to do another live action Ninja Turtles, I think they should go the route of what they did with Where the Wild Things Are, where they wore the costume and it was all real, and then you could just do a little bit of computer enhancement with the faces just to maybe bring the eyes out a little bit. But I think like the only thing I would suggest is when you looked around the turtles, like the neck, you can see that's where they put the mask on. But you know what? You kind of get so entrenched in the story, it doesn't really matter. Like, it doesn't bother me too much. It holds up good to me. I got no complaints.
No, it's a great rewatch, and I'm glad that we finally did this movie.
Okay, Turk, it is that time. We're gonna go do the Did You Know segment.
All right, Raz. Did you know the actors who physically portrayed the Turtles also had cameo roles in the film? Josh Pays, who plays Raphael, plays a passenger in the back of a taxi cab right after Raphael hops on the hood. Michelin Sisti, who plays Michelangelo, plays the pizza delivery guy who delivers the pizza to the sewer. Leif Tilden, who plays Donatello, plays a foot messenger that meets April in the subway station. And David Foreman, who plays Leonardo, plays a gang member in the warehouse during Casey's fight with Tatsu.
Turk, did you know that they tried to replicate April O'Neil's jumpsuit look from the early comics and cartoon series? The look was going to be more closely resemble the cartoon with the yellow-colored jumpsuit. I would have liked to seen that because I always thought the cartoon character was kind of sexy. However, Judith found the jumpsuit horrifying, and the idea was nixed. The yellow raincoat April wears at the beginning of the movie in the homage to the yellow jumpsuit she wears is a homage. So, you know, and the thing is, I didn't really miss the jumpsuit in the movie because, I mean, that was kind of an iconic, you know, in the cartoon she wore that jumpsuit and all that stuff. So, you know, naturally it would have been nice to kind of see it in the live action, but reality back then, because let's be honest, for movies in the 80s and 90s, it was hard for live action movies to kind of depict what came out of like the comic book or the cartoon. Like, they've gotten so much better now where they pretty much can do that. Where back then, they had a hard time doing it. So I understand why they thought the jumpsuit would probably look hokey dokey.
Although, like you said, it would have been nice to see her in a tight yellow jumpsuit.
Well, if you ever notice,
Because otherwise they would look like coveralls, right?
exactly. And then if you see like cosplay pics of like a women dressed up as April O'Neil, and you're like, ooh, damn, that looking good.
That's going in the video.
Okay, well, this has been fun. Think if you're a fan of the Turtles or you're a person that is into nostalgia, Ninja Turtles, the 1990 is a must-see. I don't think you'll be disappointed. This is a movie I think that holds up. So if you watch it as a kid and you watch it as an adult, you can enjoy it. I think this is something, if you have kids yourself, that can enjoy it.
Thanks for listening.
If you want to see more videos like this, help us out by subscribing and liking our videos. And of course, we would love to hear your feedback in our comment section. But wait, there's more. You can also watch us on either Rumble and Odyssey. For those who prefer podcasting audio experience, you can find us on Spotify, Google Podcasts, Heart Radio, Audible, and Amazon Music. We appreciate all of your support. Until then, stay vigilant and stay away from all those soy boys.